She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Hummel, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello! Welcome in. Careful where you sit. I am your host, Luke.
I'm your other host, Alicia, for now.
We'll see.
We're both alive for now.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in to Not So Straight Nerds. Today we are talking about Final Destination Bloodlines, which honestly is going to be a very fun conversation,
Yeah,
I think.
I have a prophecy that this video is going to be fun and no one's going to die.
Wait, let me have my
A premonition,
Let
sorry,
me have my
not
That's
prophecy.
So Raven moment. We gotta run.
We got to get out of here. What could kill us in this room? Definitely these. Definitely,
I'm looking
definitely
at our
the ceiling
manager
fan.
right now, and I'm saying that.
Yeah. Actually, the ceiling fan's gonna fall. It's gonna scare her. She's gonna come up and just like claw my face until it's like ripped off my head.
And then I'm going to die of laughter.
Exactly. So, what do we have to do?
Just,
What do we have to do to avoid
I don't know,
this?
just
Jump out the
not
window?
let yeah, well, that's one way. Anyways, I'm gonna center us a little bit here. I
Anyways,
think we've lost a bit.
Vibe
So,
check.
This movie was very fun to watch. We binged
Vibe check.
through. I'm still in the introduction. Okay, hold your horses.
Introduction.
We watched through all of the Final Destination movies to prepare for it.
Yes.
Which was a ride. We'll get into the
It was
details
something.
of that later.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is coming out this current weekend, the weekend of
May 16th.
May 16th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can.
Well, we
you can
saw it
watch
yesterday, so.
right now.
Yeah.
And it was a really fun time.
It was.
I would say it did surprise me on the quality level.
Yeah, pretty early
I
on.
expected it to be very enjoyable, but I was surprised at how solid as a movie
Cinematic
it is. It's very cinematic,
yeah.
and I can't wait for us to break down everything that worked for us, what didn't work, the kills.
Yeah.
It's
so
a very
fun.
iconic franchise, and it was really
Yeah.
fascinating seeing how it started and kind of where it led here. So, but before we get into that,
Vibe
yeah,
check.
now it's your time.
No, now it's my time.
So the vibes are clearly not well.
What do you mean? I'm very excited to talk about this movie. I liked this movie. It was my favorite of the 6, I would say.
Yeah, I would also
Yeah.
agree. I think it is a very good movie. It feels very parts of it feel very different from the rest of the franchise,
Parts
but
of
in a
it-
very good way.
Okay, you have to understand something. The Final Destination movies are not good. Well, I don't know.
They
They have a vibe to it. Okay?
I would say there are two that border
Pretty
on solid movies.
Solid, yeah. The others don't feel like movies, honestly. This one, pretty much right out the gate, or whatever
Yeah.
you say, felt like a movie, and I think that's awesome. I'm like, what are we doing here? This is not Final Destination. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So-
at times it operates on a
it's-
completely different level, and it's very, very crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason the ratings are so high. So we'll get to that later, more specific. So yeah, we'll see
So-
if the box office reflects that though, because it was me, you, and Cole, and then one other guy in our entire theater. 4 people, which you need to have more, and even in our little theater. So
I'll say it was a Thursday
see.
afternoon.
that is true.
Very early in the
That
afternoon.
is true. Mm-hmm. I'll kind of check this weekend what the
Yeah, I'm
what the
very-
seats look
very
like.
curious. But for those who don't know, do you wanna maybe break down what is the Final Destination?
Yeah, so the Final Destination movies have a character, your main character. They have a premonition. And you get to see this premonition in its fullest, where something happens and a large amount of people die in wild ways. Some of the more iconic ones, you have the original one where it's a plane that takes off and explodes. But they break down exactly when it happens, when someone gets ripped out a window,
and there's a
or when
specific order.
Yes.
That the characters that are the characters of the movie die.
yes, and I feel like for the most part they get bigger and bigger, and how many people die in the craziest way they die each movie. But there's always, like this huge thing that happens, and then it sucks back to present day. Oh, and then there's also things like leading up to the event that they'll notice later to realize that the premonition is going to happen. Like someone pricks their finger, or they hear like a certain song on the radio, or someone's trying to click their seatbelt and it's not working, and then they finally like shove it in and it works. Something that leads them to, oh my gosh, this is actually going to happen.
Like life insurance ads are everywhere, and it's like,
yes,
you're going down to Australia.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So very interesting things, very fun, like, its own kind of style. And then every movie they manage to save most, if not all, of the people. Well, I don't know about most. They
save a good handful. That is the ensemble of the movie.
Yeah, and that's the ensemble of the movie, and they eventually figure out, some faster than others, that they cheated death, and death is coming for them because they were supposed to die in this certain way, and they didn't. So now, in the order that they died in the premonition is the order death is gonna come for them. And, sometimes they explore different ways that who's next. Like, I think it was the third movie, they explore with someone taking pictures, and it kind of gives them hints on how they're gonna die, and I think that's a really interesting element that doesn't really happen in the other movies.
No, it was a one-time gimmick for that movie, and and honestly
really
for me it really worked.
Yeah.
It was really close to beating the original as my favorite of the original 5.
Yeah.
But then they drop it all.
Oh, that's so true in the ending. Well, and the person who had the premonition always dies last, I think. For the most part.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, I'll move on. So, and then they die in wild ways when death comes for them. Like,
very elaborate, like mousetrap-ish ways.
Yes, like these 2 girls die, one getting locked in a tanning bed, and they just burn to death. Mm-hmm. It's wild.
What are some other good ones? I'm trying to think. There was...
I'm trying not to think of the ones that happened this movie.
Correct. They are
right. I'm like, those are the ones I'm thinking of.
I remember the lamest one. There's the one where...
There's almost always something where there's a gas leak and something catches on fire. Almost every movie there's something like that. Mm. Sometimes there's like things...
Oh, the girl
like
in the
a
elevator?
small object. Yeah, like an elevator where someone gets crushed, or the small object gets launched and it like goes through someone's forehead or whatever. Trying to think. Is there something with like a chaw? What is it called?
I know there's
chainsaw. Oh my god. I don't know if there is though.
Oh, there's one where like there's a tire ring that like presses them through a fence.
Oh my gosh. I remember that one. Ugh. Yeah, and then sometimes more minor characters might get in the way and like they'll die in like really stupid ways, but it's still very dramatic. It's a very dramatic series, franchise, whatever. Yeah. So it's like very like one of the more iconic ones is the main character sees this log truck where the logs fall and they start flying through windows and it just causes a chain reaction of events. That's one of the more iconic ones. They even used that in their advertising. They attached to the back of trucks like a tarp with a picture of logs on it to make it look like it was a log truck. And then they put like Final Destination out May 16th or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun. I wish they did more of that. Maybe they didn't. I just didn't see it. I only saw the log ones. So, but that one is fun.
They seem to be very reminiscent of the logs in this one, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that, unfortunately. Anyways.
But yeah, overall, I will say, unfortunately, to me, it had 2 shining achievements in its franchise before this last entry, and then this entry blows all of that out of the water.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a really interesting concept that the trailer doesn't do justice. At some point, you said that there might have been a continuity issue, and I don't remember why. It was something like, I wonder how the bloodline thing is going to work, because they said in this movie, blah, blah, blah.
Right, because in the second movie, there's a whole point about, like, trying to get out of the death plan thing. Mm-hmm. And the creepy coroner guy, who's also returning here, played by Tony Todd. This is his
R.I.P..
last role that he ever played in Bloodlines. He has one of the most beautiful send-offs for an actor I think I've ever seen. So it's very, what a way to go. But basically he shows up in most of the movies and gives some of the characters an idea of what they're going to be spending the rest of the movie doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the only way you can beat Death's plan is to spur life from the mistake.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. So we have to, like, make someone live, I guess.
Yeah. Save someone in some way. They were talking about, there's this girl that's pregnant. So, like, what if she gives birth? That's new life.
And then it, like, completely erases the plan and he has to start over.
Yeah.
Which, here in this movie, the whole point is...
it's
with
the
Bloodlines,
children.
It's the children of the people who survived the initial event also get killed, which is like, cool, that is completely contradictory to what
completely
you were
different
saying in that movie.
So, yeah, it's either that or you have to kill somebody and
take their place.
Take their place.
You get the amount of time that they were supposed to live.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily know how much.
They do that I think they do that in one movie.
I know a character tries to with the fireworks, like the chase scene there.
Oh, they do it with 2 then.
Okay.
There's that one, because that was in 3. And then I know in the one where it's like the work trip, there's the person who like sees the thing coming and he's being yelled at by his asshole coworker. And then he kind of like steps out of the way so it hits him instead. But then at the very end, it's like, hey, did you know that he like had this brain thing so he was going to die like today?
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yeah. That's really funny, actually. Yeah, they do some silly things like that.
It's interesting. Sometimes
it's on brand. I don't know.
It's crazy how this franchise switches between taking itself super seriously.
Yeah, and reminding you that it's not.
Campy,
yeah.
But within like the same 5 minutes.
Yep.
I will say for most of the movies, it doesn't really work.
Doesn't work. I feel like for the most part, they do it well in this movie.
Oh, in this movie they do it really good. But I think in this movie, I think what they have here that works a lot better than in other movies is they have a lot of like actual heart that you don't have from the other cast in ensembles. It's based around a family,
because it's a family now.
so that isn't something you'd necessarily have from the other ones, but
a lot of them are, well, I don't know about a lot of them, some of them are friend groups, maybe.
I mean,
is there one,
but not nearly to this extent. And all of them have a girlfriend or someone involved.
Yeah.
Or a boyfriend or something like that, and there's, but I feel like they don't heighten the element nearly as well as they do here.
Yeah.
And it definitely raises the stakes to an unprecedented level for this franchise.
I agree.
And so I guess maybe now we can just go into our non-spoiler pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I went first last time, so I'll let you have the floor.
Okay. So I think I said this earlier, but I thought it was an interesting concept, and I feel like it turned out better than I thought it would. I was a little, the trailer wasn't the best. They seemed to give a lot away. And, in one scene they did, another scene they don't, which is another pro.
Yeah.
So something is different than the trailer. Kind of. Like the aftermath is different than the trailer.
Yeah.
One is not. The one that is not is in my pro. The one that is in my pro. Did I say that right? Is in my con. The one that was exactly like in the trailer is in my con list because that's boring.
Yeah.
Why did I need to see that whole scene again? I already know what happens because you already showed me. But then the other one, I was like, oh, I like that you changed it. So, yeah, surprised me.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I agree.
I feel like the concept paid off really well. I thought the opening was actually really cool.
That opening is one of the best openings I think we've seen possibly all year. It's definitely
it was
one of them.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I liked the characters that everything was happening to more than just the main character, but definitely the main character. I thought she killed it. And I also liked that usually in the other movies, the premonition immediately ends with the person realizing that they had a premonition and then slowly being like, oh, this is actually going to happen, and preventing it. But that didn't happen in this case. They have the premonition and they have her dying at the very end because she's the one who has the premonition, so she dies at the end. Kind of. And then it skips to present day with her granddaughter. So I thought that was really cool. And it does show you obviously she lives, and they say that in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. So they show her how she got out of it, who she managed to save later. And I felt like it was at a really good time. And I thought that was, different than what we usually get. It was nice. It really worked for me. Speaking of the cast, I said the main girl was really good. Well, like the one who had the premonition, but also the main girl was really good. And I feel like, from what I can remember, I would say this is the strongest overall cast. You had some weaker people, you had some stronger people.
Sure.
But I don't know. I feel like
the characters we spend the most of the movie with, I would say overall they're strongest.
Yeah, I agree. Because some of those ensembles are just not good at all. Anyways.
For real.
And let me see. Ooh, there's a little boy in the premonition, and there's a callback to him later, or like a follow-up to like who he is, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was really well
you
done.
called that,
and
that was
immediately.
great. Yeah. And they changed the scene from the trailer. There was a reveal about one of the family members which both of us were kind of like 30 seconds before or whatever, like a minute before it happened, we were like, oh, this is what's happening. And I thought that was really interesting. It was an interesting way to change something that happens in the trailer.
It's a really great way to subvert expectation throughout the movie.
Yeah, I wish they did that again with both scenes. But anyways. And then there's a scene, I guess it's not spoilers. There's a scene in the movie where they're in a hospital talking about, okay, so this person told us that we have to take a life and we take whatever time they had left, but how do we know if they have a lot of time? And then they pass the like NICU or whatever they call it,
like the baby ward in the hospital where all the newborn babies are chilling,
and then they just kind of look at each other and they're like, nah. No, that's exactly how it went.
Exactly
and
how
it was
goes.
so, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure I gasped in the theater when we saw the babies. I was like, oh my god.
That's exactly the scene. Oh, so many scenes like that.
That
in
was
this
a
movie
good
are, like,
joke.
perfectly
By the way,
done.
they don't actually kill the babies, just in case you're actually scared of that. No, of course they don't. But, I mean, if anyone was going to do it, it'd be Final Destination. So in case you're scared, they do not do it. Sorry
go
to
that
spoil that for you, but you would probably, I would hope you want to know that they don't actually go that far. Anyways, it was a really funny joke. That was a highlight. So, anyways, it's funny in this movie.
Yeah, there's also a good amount of comedy in it.
Yeah.
For something that's so...
And it works, so...
I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but just like so unabashedly graphic. And I would say way more so than even the other ones are in this franchise.
Yeah, I agree.
Like some of that, it's like the most gruesome that this franchise has ever been, which is a selling point for a lot of people. And I think when it's at its best, it works. I think at times it goes overboard. Yeah,
because a lot of times, unfortunately, the cons to some of these Final Destination movies, with the kills, it's like sometimes they go for what'd you say, like the cheap shot or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the most part, they don't do that in this movie, but
yeah,
because
sometimes they try and be like, sometimes it's a super elaborate thing where, oh, I dropped my pen here, and then that fell on a cat, and then it scared this bird, and then the bird knocked over the person holding the windowsill, and then it fell, and it dropped on something that was on like a scale, and then that flew across the air, and then it landed on my cousin.
Yeah.
And then other times it's he stepped out in traffic and got hit by a bus.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a huge gap between these two things, and this movie for the most part does the elaborate ones, and sometimes they're not even that elaborate, but it still works really well.
Yeah, I agree.
There's only one death in this movie that I say feels incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
And like something directly out of the other ones. And I'm curious if we feel the same about the same one.
Okay.
But was that everything on your pro list before I start going in?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. And so they added a very fun concept to the franchise with this one. They changed up who has the premonition, and it's like a premonition of something that happened super far back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's not directly relating to anyone, so they have to figure out what that order is. It's really interesting to see how they do that. There's the added element that it is your family going through it. So overall, I super love it. Some of the other gimmicks, the only one I think super worked for this franchise outside of like the first one and the whole point of like Death's Plan and all that.
Yeah.
I really loved the one in 3 where it's the pictures, and so they're looking at hints of how they die through the pictures that they took throughout the night. I thought the way they did that was super clever and interesting. Other ones they tried to do, there was one where they tried to do it where the person just kept having like really bad like almost opening credits-esque snippets of how the people die. It's like, cool, why does he get that superpower and none of the other people? It's all just
well, and my question is always going to be, why do they get the premonition and therefore a chance to stop it if Death doesn't want them to stop it? Like, who's intervening here?
well, but even in this case, it feels like there's arguably a reason that she gets the vision that she has, because it leads directly into, you know, everything going forward.
Yeah.
So in here, if it ever made sense, it makes sense here.
That is true. That's a good point.
Because she doesn't even have her own premonition of the event. We don't know why it happened in the first place.
No.
But in the confines of the story here, I really like the idea that maybe it's like Death giving it to our main character so that, you know,
So she will
so
go
it
on this
goes into the
adventure
ultimate plan
and
that he's planning.
yeah,
It's very fascinating.
that is true.
And this one, so cinematic. Like the other ones, like the original one, it's clearly its first thing, trying to do a very original concept, and I think it works a lot in that vein. Outside of that, everything else kind of feels cheap.
Yeah.
And sometimes they clearly don't have the budget to do what they want to do, but they do it anyways.
Sometimes the VFX are a little.
Yeah.
But that's also very typical for the whole franchise. But
In this one, I'm curious, because you did put that note later on, but I think
like it looked better than other movies, but it was still definitely times with all the fire and the smoke, and I was like,
I want to hear your specifics on that in a second. But I love overall how this whole movie looked.
yeah,
Especially the opening is super stylized, and like the entire first, what would you say, like 20 minutes, 15? There's a very extended sequence.
oh yeah,
where it
a
just
lot of
feels
VFX
completely
there.
different, and I love the way they shoot it. I love, you know, just the design of everything.
Yeah.
And everyone acts.
The
It feels
production
so-
design is great. The
Ugh.
color grading, everything
Like
is
it almost
really good.
like low key. I'd wonder what a Final Destination in like other time periods would look like, because that was so strong.
Yeah, I agree. Ooh, that'd be cool if they did one from like way back in the day.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they could explore it in other ways. I think they make a great argument for being more experimental with the stuff they try to do.
Yeah. Very
So, the great opening. I love a handful of twists they have throughout this movie. They all, even if I like catch them a couple minutes before they say it, it all like is like a oh. It all.
That is true. I put still very predictable on my cons list, but at least these had a nice payoff. Like I was happy with the decision that they were clearly going for. It would have been nice to be more of a surprise, but like
I don't know.
could have been worse. I could have not liked the predictable.
I heard someone mention a quote from Albert Hitchcock.
Okay.
Who was, you know, one of the early day, like...
Albert
Hitchcock. Albert Hitchcock.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Is that his first name?
Albert Hitchcock,
I thought it was Alfred.
Oh, isn't Alfred?
I fear
It is Alfred.
I fear it's Alfred.
No, it is Alfred.
I
because
thought I was
literally-
I was being gaslit right now. Let's just put that out.
It is Alfred, because I was also thinking, yeah, because he's named after Batman's butler, and I'm like, no, but Richard's not his name.
That's Alfred. Alfred.
Alfred Hitchcock.
What's happening to my computer? Why can't I get to the Phantom Zone? Alfred. I love that scene. Anyways.
There was a quote he said where you could have...
The cinephiles are going to come for you now.
I'm sorry, cinephiles. But I'm
Anyways.
quoting him. And he's a genius. So
Albert?
take that. Albert
Hitchcock?
Alfred Hitchcock said, you can have a scene where there's a bomb under the table and the audience finds out when it blows up the same time that the actors do. Or you can show the audience that there's a bomb under the table and it completely changes how the viewers see the scene.
Yeah.
And that is completely what this movie tries to go for. And
That is cool.
the way that we see it set up, and
Well put.
we obviously know
Albert
that they should be
Hitchcock.
aware of it. Shut up!
I'm never gonna let you live that one down.
You'll
Actually,
forget about it by
that's
lunchtime
true.
tomorrow.
That's true. So you don't have to worry about it. Let me have my fun now, and I'll forget about it tomorrow.
And then you'll edit this video and be like, "Oh my gosh, I remember."
Right. Write that down. Write that down.
But
Anyways.
I think you can see elements of that throughout this, and it
Mhm.
almost feels like something that should have been more prominent throughout this franchise, because
Yeah.
clearly they use it like almost masterfully through scenes in this movie.
Interesting. Okay. I think they use it well. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the decisions. So.
And then the kills, some great kills. I think a lot of the kills in this movie jump to the top list of kills in this franchise.
Yeah, I agree. You have me yawning over here. It's like back and forth.
I said that there's a lot of heart here, and then I also talked about Tony Todd's send-off.
Yeah.
As a legacy
really
actor, I
nice.
don't think you can ask for a better send-off within a movie.
What a beautiful
And
like
that also added a
mini
lot of heart.
monologue that he had. That just, it's just really pretty. And I have to wonder like how they felt editing that together and being like, damn, like this is like so deep and perfect. And
Yeah.
we didn't even know. You just wrote it how it was and then didn't know what was going to happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh. So,
Ugh, I can think of a few scenarios where that happened. And anyways,
yeah.
very sad.
And it also explores with, not only with that scene, but also it hints at it enough that it feels like it's supposed to be kind of the overall theme of the movie, where it's like, you never know how much time you're going to get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, death is the one thing that's guaranteed for everyone that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an interesting conversation of like spending your life locked away and avoiding the inevitable, and therefore, you're alive, but you're not
Yeah.
alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings up that conversation, and in that scene, it's done beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'll jump into my cons. My biggest con is that ultimately it doesn't end up being like a lesson learned, where
Yeah.
it's like, you can try and fight the inevitable all you want.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get there eventually, so just enjoy the time that you have, the family that you have. Uncle Howard, as small of a character as he is in this movie, has that great line of like, you don't get to choose your family, you just get to love the one that you have.
Mm-hmm.
L'chaim. Hey, where's my lawnmower? But whenever it talks about those themes and family bonding and things not being perfect but being worth it,
Yeah.
it's really sweet, and it makes some of the stuff that happens the stakes rise because you feel connected to these characters,
Yeah.
which you don't in I would say any of the other ones really, except for I would say the main character in the first one and the girlfriend who kind of carries into the second one. I like them a lot. But
Yeah. I agree.
then, what are some of my other cons? Ultimately, towards the end, it loses some of that heart that I love about it.
Yeah.
And it loses it at the expense of being a Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be a way for them to have done it in a way where it still keeps the heart and is in a Final Destination movie. Because, there are some of these deaths, and I think it's crazy unfair, some of these deaths, where, the first couple people, or like sometimes you do get hit by a car and you're instantaneously dead in a second and you never had to realize it. Other times, you're
Crushed to death.
You're slowly
or
being
like
crushed to death. And
burned to death.
Or like you're very aware that death is coming for you, so you know something is happening, so you're living in fear for the last like 20 minutes of your life,
Yep.
actively seeing something come at you that you can't stop.
Yep.
And those two, and then like you're slowly dying in pain. And those two things are completely separate and
Yeah.
completely random. And, I think sometimes I wish it was more brutal towards the people that we feel, it's like I would get a little bit more satisfaction having this person acknowledge it. And sometimes
the
you see
kid
them do
with
that
the
throughout
penny. It's on. It's on site. I'm so kids, man.
Yeah.
Kids, man. Anyways.
Keep them out of your fountains.
No, for real.
If we learned
He
anything.
coached this whole movie, basically.
But yeah, ultimately the whole like message that it feels like they're trying to set up falls flat with the ending. It's still a very elaborate ending for sure, and I can see how people ultimately find it satisfying if they love this franchise.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's the thing. I don't love this franchise. I like it.
It's interesting.
And I think this movie is the strongest when it tries to elevate beyond the franchise.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
and then ultimately it
Try
ends
new
up being
things.
like, but hey, we're Final Destination. You
Remember,
know us.
Yeah. We have to do this. Sorry, it's our signature.
Then
Yeah.
also, the dad in this movie is really annoying to me.
Interesting.
To another point where it's like, dude, like he leaves at some point and it's like, thank you. I wish you had done that at the beginning of this movie. You start on a really annoying
Why?
note, and then you
Interesting.
continue to be annoying the entire movie, even though everyone in the movie is on the same note at some point, and you're like, guys, you're wrong. And it's just like, get out of here, Paul. I don't know his name. Wait, I have his name somewhere.
Hi, I'm Paul.
What's his name? Get out of here.
I didn't remember him being all that
Get out
annoying,
of
to
here,
be
Mark.
honest.
Oh, every time he
don't-
opened his mouth, I was like, now he's gonna be spouting off some more of this, and I have to be like, and he's like, Dad, but this is happening. He was like, oh, back in my day, and because your mom's crazy, and her mom's mom was crazy, so you're being crazy like her, and I don't know. Does it have some misogynistic undertones?
Maybe.
Possibly. He doesn't bring it up when anyone else talks about it, even when the entire family's on board with it.
Oh, that's true. I will say that leads into one of my cons, which is I was disappointed they didn't explore the mom more because, so Iris, when she survived, she went crazy, or like, everybody said she went crazy or whatever. She isolated herself. She raised her kids in an isolated environment. She basically like installed so much fear in them of dying that they grew up, and the mom supposedly, according to the dad, also went crazy and left their family or whatever. But we see pretty early on that that's not exactly what happened. Like, she left out of fear that she was going to do to her children what was done to her. And that's about the extent of where that's explored, I would say. And I wanted more to that. I don't know. I wanted more scenes with her. I wanted more backstory there. Was she actually like going crazy, or was she just, is there more to that? I don't know. I was disappointed because I thought that was like the start of something interesting and it just never went anywhere.
Because
So.
you see with Iris, they make some really bold choices with her, and I think they
Yeah.
all really work well
Yep.
to show how much she was always like, she was given the Bruno effect where she was ostracized from the family.
Yeah.
And then ultimately what she ended up doing, even though she was still perceived as crazy, it was for the betterment of her family to try and give them, their best shot against the being in a Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
So I really love what they do with her character. And it's very interesting to see that the mom character is like crazy sidelined throughout.
Yeah. Absolutely. So. Fortunate.
And then also there's a whole thing where where it seems like they're trying to tie into this, like, all of the other movies here.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you kind of assume they are. But I expected it to at some point be a lot more, like, upfront about the way they connect.
Oh, like with the drawings? Is that what you're talking
Sort
about?
of, because you see, there's this book that's kind of like displayed as like, this is the guide to survive the
How
death.
to see death coming.
And you'll see it
What
coming.
are
If
the
you
signs?
see this, do this, and
Yes.
this won't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see like the plane and the like road trip and like the logs and the thing, and it's like you see that like some like hints towards a bunch of the stuff that happens in the other movies. But then with if there's kind of this idea where it's like the bloodline all travels from this moment, and I expected there to be like a specific thing where it's like, oh, and then this person led to this,
Oh,
and then
okay.
then like this person led to this, and they were both on this plane at the same time.
On the plane,
And it's
on
like,
the roller coaster,
I
in
don't
the
know.
stadium.
It feels like they were trying to set it up to be this whole thing where this is like the whole like birthplace of the franchise, and I guess we're supposed to infer that possibly.
Maybe.
But it feels like if
That
you're
would've
going to
been
try and
nice
explain
to,
it where
like,
it's like this happened, it got
confirm
crazy,
that.
and then somehow they all funneled into this event
Yeah.
that spun into a movie.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like you can be a little more like.
It's kind of like
And you literally like in the trailer you can see they have like a map out of it.
yeah.
And it's like show like a clip of someone.
It's
from
kind
the
of
movie.
like what they did from Until Dawn, where they just did like little snippets of this person talking and this person talking and this person, you know, all these people who were here at the house. They could have done that. They could have literally just like 2 seconds of the roller coaster going by, 2 seconds of the plane taking off. You know, like it didn't have to be. It could have been while they were talking.
Mm-hmm. Or even just
So.
like in the newspaper clippings. I wonder if
Yeah.
they're just like, because I was looking hard every time we got
Yeah.
close to that thing because I was like, where are these things? I want to
Yeah.
see these things.
Where's the plane?
And it's
Where's
not,
the number that we're looking
and it
for?
is not obvious enough to
Someone who's actively looking
spot
for
when,
it.
when I'm actively looking at it, and
Yeah.
that I think is a problem if you're insinuating it this hard.
Yep, I agree. And it's, you know, even if they didn't mean to insinuate it, which I think they are, but even if you're not, then that's a missed opportunity. So it's bad either way. So
Yeah. So, those are essentially my cons. Do you have any more?
both of us were not fond of the ending, which we'll talk about later.
I don't know.
And yeah, I addressed all the others. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't think the ending's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't as strong as I was wishing it was going to be.
Yeah. It just kind of leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. Like not a great taste at
Yeah.
least. So not what most of the movie was giving.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So
like you said, it kind of fell back into that, well, we're Final Destination kind of thing. So oh well.
We're not so straight nerds. Of course, we're gonna go on weird tangents about movies that aren't related to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Or things that are happening that have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
We're not so
Anyways.
straight nerds. Of course, we're going to forget what we just said.
Yeah. anyways.
So, with that being said, I think that's everything for our non-spoiler section.
Yeah. I agree.
So, we are going to go into our spoiler section for Final Destination Bloodline. You have been warned. So,
3, 2, 1. They
everybody
all die at the
dies.
end, and that's
Effed up. That's another conversation that we
Yeah.
had that I mentioned
That's
briefly.
happened multiple times this year.
Because the monkey is very, very much ripped out of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And the monkey did really good for itself. Actually...
Well, I mean, like, it was based off a Stephen King story, but, like, what they did in the movie was, I would say, it was giving, like, Final
it's
Destination,
very
for
much
sure.
given wrong.
Yeah, it was living, like, wild deaths that would, like, never happen in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, death was the monkey. So,
And
Yeah.
the monkey was made for $11 million. It went on this year to gross $63 million.
so I mean, that's pretty good. So,
For that budget.
That's really good.
This one was looking at a $50 million budget.
oof.
And it's a very... I would say this is better than the
We'll
monkey,
see.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did not like the monkey when we watched it.
That is
I will
true.
say, I
That is
feel
true.
like if we watched the monkey after
Mm-hmm.
watching all the Final Destination movies, I feel like we would have been pretty forgiving to the monkey
Yeah.
on a lot of points.
Yeah, that's actually very true.
I-
But we watched The Monkey before Final Destination. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyways.
I'd almost be interested to rewatch it, maybe with Cole, because he watched all of the other Final Destination movies with us.
He didn't see that one?
He didn't see the monkey with us, so
Interesting.
he's still yet to see it. Maybe he'd like
Okay.
to. Maybe
Okay.
we'd see what he thinks about it
Yeah.
after being refreshed with all of the others.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, but I do think ultimately, I mean, this is a franchise, unlike the monkey. So I think inherently it makes a little more just on that alone.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how much more because, they're incredibly similar concepts and their pitch
Yeah.
is very similar concepts. So it's not like someone went into the monkey not realizing they were essentially watching Final Destination.
Yeah. Well, and 63 million or whatever you said, that's good for the budget the monkey had, but that would be really bad for a 50 million budget. I mean, that's horrible. So,
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know.
of this franchise, the lowest box office was 90 million. And that was the second one.
That would still be bad for this one.
Yeah. So,
But that's the lowest, so
its highest that it's ever grossed was
we'll see.
187.
Yeah, that would be good. You know,
Yeah,
that would make a profit.
We'll get into it later, but just
If
so I
it
can
can
do the
hit
math
like the
now,
twos, that would be
Two-
great.
I'm trying to think. Two
But we'll see.
and a half of its budget, so that would be 1,200 to get around the break-even point. Because also they were doing some marketing on this movie for sure.
120 million.
120, 125 around that.
25 million.
So that'd be, I think, I don't know. In another year, I think that's very doable.
I don't know, around this time.
Around this time,
Especially when you're having Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch next week. Like,
and you
that's
have
taking
and
everything
you have
away.
Sinners re-releasing the same weekend.
Ooh, that's so true.
Friendly Fire.
Yeah.
So it's
I don't know.
it's
I don't know.
very fascinating. It's a very fascinating conversation to be had.
Yeah.
But going back into, let me closing our notes. The game I wanted to do. So
Okay.
we are going to grab our lovely, lovely little whiteboards. And
We have new markers?
we do have some
Really
new markers
excited.
and erasers.
Yeah.
So what I
Erasers.
want us to do is I want us to go through the deaths of the movie, and
Okay.
instead of putting them in order, I want you to give it a score.
Okay.
We'll say out
Out
of
of 10?
10.
Okay.
So we'll mix it up a little bit. So for
Some
our
fun
first
stuff.
one, we will do the opening inciting incident at the Skyview Tower. It is essentially kind of like the needle point in Seattle.
Oh.
It
We're
is
getting it going.
a tower in the 60s. They have a dance floor up there. They have to take an elevator all the way up there. And essentially, a coin gets lodged in and it cuts one of the one of the gas tanks, and so it starts spouting gas everywhere.
Mhm.
Eventually there's a fire. The dance
Yeah.
floor is made of glass and starts making people fall to their deaths. The building starts completely collapsing. Chaos ensues. It's very messy. It's very long and extended,
Yes.
which is lovely for this genre. So
Yeah.
and also before we flip, I think maybe noting some of the other inciting incidents in the movies. It started with the plane scene. Very simple, very straightforward.
Mhm.
It's a plane crash.
Yeah.
Plane explosion into plane crash.
In each movie. That was the number one.
Number 2 was the road trip, where
The log
it's a
truck.
highway and the log truck
Mhm.
starts killing people, and a bunch of people on the road die in still surprisingly varying ways.
Mm-hmm.
So rather inventive. Then 3 is the roller coaster accident.
Mm-hmm.
I would say not as crazy, but still some brutal deaths. People flying off, people falling
Yeah.
on the loop and then getting hit by the track as it goes around.
It gives them a bad rep because, I promise you guys, at least at Disney or Universal, that would never happen.
Sure.
I promise you that would never happen. But anyways,
4 was the racetrack.
racetrack and the
And
stands.
The
and-
car kind of crashes into one of the pillars, and this concrete structure starts collapsing down onto the people watching.
Yep.
And then the work trip where there is a bus on
Right.
a bridge, and the bridge
Mhm.
collapses.
Yeah. Which
So,
that has
that one
happened.
is also pretty extended.
That has happened before too, so that's one of the more realistic ones.
So, that being said, that is kind of what we're working off in the past tense.
Mhm.
Okay. Reveal on how we rate the Skyview Tower fall. 3, 2, 1. I give it 10 out of 10 on that.
Okay.
I have almost
The only reason I gave it a 9 out of 10, for those on Spotify, I gave it a 9 out of 10. So I get annoyed when a new build, which I know they made a point to say this was done, construction was done
I
5
love that
5 months
scene.
early.
Is that a good thing? I loved that little bit.
Yeah. Is that a good thing? I'm glad somebody has sense here. I'm annoyed by the amount of people that chose to get in the elevator. I feel like I understand when the chaos ensued that everyone wasn't thinking logically, but beforehand, I would never get in a crowded elevator, and I would definitely never get one that doesn't immediately close its doors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh no, we'll go ahead, and they'll be like, no, come on in. I'll just be like, oh no, thanks. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes.
Man.
I'm not gonna, like be polite at the cost of my safety, so
The whole
or
thing-
well-being as well. So
And if we may maybe unpack a little bit more of that opening scene because
Mm-hmm.
it's so good.
yeah,
And like my heart was like dropping towards the beginning, like whenever the glass breaks through.
Oh,
On the dance floor
yeah.
and they all fall to their death.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Well,
Literally.
that was the other thing is I got mad at the amount of people just trusting that. Like, y'all are crazy. At least nowadays, I feel like. Can we please agree not to trust that, anyways? And then 2, although I'm pretty sure I've been in buildings where they have sections where it's like see through, and then not a single person saw or heard the glass. Well, I heard is one thing because it was loud music, but nobody was gonna like see or maybe feel like the glass was cracking. Not one person. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So my gut tells me 9 out of 10. So what can you
else?
do?
And then the woman catching on fire.
Oh my gosh, the frying pan?
Yes, and then she walks to where the gas leak is.
That was cool.
Ugh.
That was like, and we saw it coming. We saw the gas coming. We saw her walking from a distance. We're like, oh no.
And then
So-
the elevator, whenever they overload the elevator like they did on the way up, and then the elevator drops down. Oh,
Yeah.
another like
And the
every time
stairs
it-
collapse.
Oh my
That's
gosh, the kid
wild.
goes down and then the people fall out the building as oh my god. And then
Yeah.
the kid looks back and then just keeps going.
Hate
and
that
then
little kid.
And then I love the reveal as she like looks at the stuff on the table as it's like starting to like go off the table and
She realizes it's
the
tilting.
building's starting to lean and fall off.
Yeah.
And then there's the piano on that poor woman.
It's always a piano. I knew it was going to be a piano.
Did you hear
I
Cole
knew
lean
it.
over to me and be like, "Hey, where'd you get that piano?"
No. That's funny.
Yeah, and then there's a coin because it all happens supposedly because a kid stole a coin from the fountain at the bottom of the tower. And
Yeah.
the guard is like, "Hey, stop stealing coins! Don't you know that's bad luck?" And then the coin that breaks the line is like thrown off the top of the building, and then like the wind picks it up and throws it into the vent, and that's where it breaks the gas line.
It's a whole chain of events. And then since we're in spoiler territory, we're wondering if that was... Oh, that should have been another con, is that they didn't really follow up with that Penny storyline. It very
Yes.
clearly was the reason that they had bad luck. And then it was almost like it was protecting Iris because she had it.
Yeah, because it was in the book that she hands off to what's her name, the main character?
Oh,
in the
I
notes.
don't remember.
Stephanie.
Yeah,
Steph.
but then the second she loses the penny is when bad things
Yeah.
start to happen.
And I
so
think
it's
that
like,
because in that whole premonition of everyone dying,
mhm.
it ends with the coin that the kid took and like did all of that stuff with. It lands on on the piano, which is enough to tip
Yeah.
it over, kills a woman as it goes out the window, and then it lands on the kid as he like escapes the tower unfazed, and it crushes him. And then
funny.
the coin bounces
Yeah.
off the piano and then goes back into the pond where he grabbed it from.
Yeah.
So
It suggests that all you needed to do was return it to the pond.
yeah, and they mentioned like the site was closed down after that.
Yeah.
So I really expected like the finale to be like we have to go back to the tower,
Mm-hmm.
and there to be something with it there, like maybe the tower collapses to stop them from like putting it back, and then there's a whole thing there, which sounds
know.
also very thrilling.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that, and they kind of completely drop it. Even though they make a whole point of the coin,
Yeah.
and the coin ultimately kills them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
Well,
feels like another missed opportunity. But
Yeah, I agree.
whatever.
Anyways.
So the second one is the wind vane kill. That is whenever Iris is like,
Right.
you need to believe that this book and what's happening is real, and that only happens if I give you the book and I step outside. And so she goes outside, and through a chain of events, the wind vane spinning around on her roof launches
and she
off.
knew it was going to happen.
Yep. And it goes through the back of her head and kills her right in front of her granddaughter. Yeah.
Wait.
3, 2, 1.
I like hated that scene because, girl, just throw the book. It's like the sinner scene when he just hands him the money and then is shocked that he's yanked by the arm.
Well, here's my thing.
Just throw the money.
I disagree.
I know she needed to know it, but it's like, just throw the book.
Well, because the thing
Well,
is,
and then it was like, it had a weird cut too, where like, when it went through her head and then Stephanie was covered in blood, it was like a scream and then cut. I was like, okay. Moving on.
well, I don't want
what
to
it-
move on yet because
No, I was saying that's what it felt like in the movie. It was just like,
well, I don't
moving on.
know. It works a lot for me because there's a lot of context to her choosing to have that happen to her.
Yeah.
And I also really like it because there's the argument of like, she could, because the whole reason that she was in that thing and that her family was safe till this point was that she was still alive and her
Yeah.
family had to die in the order.
Yeah.
But she found out that she had cancer. And so death was going to get her one way or another.
Yeah.
And so if she didn't have her daughter, her one chance to have someone in her family start believing that,
Yeah.
then they were going to die without a chance.
Yeah.
So I don't
Which
know.
they did anyway. So, well.
I don't know, but
Oh, well.
in
Anyways.
theory, completely excluding the ending of this, I love the idea of what she was trying to do. And for that,
Yeah.
it really works for me.
Okay.
And even though it's a very simple kill, it still really works for me.
Yeah. It was, I will say, it was fun when, with the magnifying glass or the mirror or whatever it was that directed the sunlight and started burning the plant. She saw that because she learned how to see the signs. And then outside, you also see the signs of it. You know, you see like the fire hydrant or
the
whatever
fire
it
hydrant
was
falls,
falling
so
over.
She closes the door and they don't even
Yeah.
notice that. And then she notices it when she's like looks outside.
Yep. She's
Um,
like, this is how it's going to happen.
also, older Iris, she's played by the mom of Prince Charming from Once Upon a Time. And I absolutely loved seeing her again.
She's great.
Ugh, she ate, I fear. A wind vane, but
Yeah.
what you gonna do? What's her name? I wanna make sure I shout her. Wasn't it towards the beginning?
I'm already rating
Yes, it was. It was
the next one. Ready.
Gabrielle Rose. The next one, what was the next one? The
The
lawnmower kill.
one, which
Okay.
was one of the ones in the trailer. And
Yes.
spoilers, it happens the exact same way. Nothing changes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
I had to put it one below because I do feel like it was the worst one in the movie because it's boring. We already saw this happen.
My thing is, I'm trying to imagine
And
like
y'all are
how
really
that would have
dumb.
been if we hadn't seen that in the trailer. Like,
Okay.
I hate that it was like shot for shot out of the trailer.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think it could have been really interesting.
Yep.
Or at least,
I agree. Well, I was also frustrated just the sheer amount of dumb choices made there. I'm glad the mom at least had some sense to move the rake.
yeah, I think that was also another
Who
fun addition.
left that there in the first place? You suck. Like, whoever did that.
But then I also
You're
really like
horrible.
that was the thing that led into, ultimately the death, because that's the rake that falls on the lawnmower.
Yeah.
To start it.
So it's inevitable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very funny. That part of it.
And also, just the sheer amount of things in general below that trampoline, wild. I mean, if you step on the soda can that was under there wrong, it can break and impale you there. How is your family going to call you a good bartender and then a glass cup breaks around ice and you don't empty that? Take the L and go to the store and get another bag of ice if you have to, okay? Don't tell me you're a good bartender and then do that. That's just wild. I mean, that's just common sense, even if you're not a bartender, but like definitely as a bartender, you way know better than that. That's crazy. Anyway, and then just like playing Jenga and leaving your glass cups next to the Jenga, leaving it on corners of stuff. I'm like, you're just like asking for something to happen. Y'all are just dumb. So it's just a very frustrating scene. But yeah, it would have been better if at least we didn't know what was going to happen. Because, like, at first we were like, oh, I don't know whose cup the ice is in. But then I feel like I remember it being in that person's cup. I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know, but another thing I actually really
Anyways.
liked is the Steph's foreshadowing of the event.
Yeah.
When the picture falls down and then it's the exact same shard of glass that, like, the
Yeah.
same exact shape that he'll step on.
Yep. She's like, oh. Yeah, I also didn't love that she rushed there, got there before it happened, and didn't say a thing. She didn't say or do anything. So all around, I just, like, didn't like the scene. So, Oh well. But it was a brutal kill, so there you go. There's the 2 stars there. So.
The next one, speaking of brutal kills, is the garbage truck kill. This one's really funny because they expect it to be killing the brother Eric, and they're spotting literally a tree trimmer leaning on a tree, a man with a leaf blower, and kids playing soccer, all like right next to each other. As the garbage truck is coming down the street and getting all of the stuff, and she's literally being like, "Stay away from that! Stay away from that! Stay away from that!"
Yep.
What if this happens to? What if the leaf trimmer falls, scares the guy with the leaf blower, he blows it at the kids, and then they kick you in the head, and it's like, "Oh, a soccer ball's gonna kick me in the head
and kill me."
Yeah. And then the sister runs by them, and then literally all of that happens to her, and she gets knocked into a trash can as it's being dumped into the garbage truck, and and then the brutalness of her trying to get out, and then her being on the corner as it crushes her, and she like
crazy.
Oh,
I mean, that could not have gone worse for her, low key. So,
but I will say, okay. No,
have you rated it yet? Hurry up!
I'm sorry. Okay, 3, 2.
I have a
1.
very beautiful 5 here. Can we just
That's
appreciate?
a very nice 5.
Right? Like, please look at my 5. It's really pretty. I slate that. Anyways, I should take a picture of this. It's fine. We have it on video. It's fine.
It's on video. But yeah, for me, it is one of the. Honestly, it's the funniest kill of the entire franchise for me.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. Maybe I was being too harsh on it. Maybe I'll do like I don't know. It wasn't like that exciting, but it was funny seeing that she knew the lead up to it.
Because we didn't know it was going to happen to her until it happened.
That's true. So it was kind of surprising in that way. Because then we find out that he is not the son of the
uncle who was related to the
yeah. Not the son of the uncle. So yeah.
Yeah,
and then son of a mother.
So brutal. And
I'm a mother of a son.
And then also, I'll avoid talking about the actress by saying it here. She was also, I think, a weak link of the cast.
Oh yeah.
And she was
not great.
kind of, mean without reason to like everyone.
Yeah, because there was a falling out there.
If someone's going to have that horrible thing happen, at least it didn't happen to someone I actually wanted to make it out of this movie alive.
Yeah. Well, I think she smelled the expo and was like, "Blah." So, yeah, because they mentioned that there was a falling out between her and Stephanie because they used to be, like, best friends. But then,
never heard
I guess she left and didn't talk to her anymore, which there's no explanation for why that happened. And then,
Yeah.
we never explored that. So, she just kind of seemed like a jerk the whole movie, so.
Yeah, needlessly. The next one is the MI machine. The MRI.
MRI, yeah.
And this is the kill on Eric.
Eric's kill.
Where he
does not die in the tattoo parlor, which is crazy.
Yeah, but
Shop,
also
whatever.
I don't know. It really works.
Oh, it does. I agree.
And then I loved. And then all of the piercings got ripped out of him because the magnet was going off so strong. And then, first it comes off his ears, then his nose. His nipples,
and then
lower,
and then lower.
Oh, and then he gets pulled into the machine, and then the wheelchair pulls him in and starts going
crushes
through
him.
The skull tattoo on his back.
Wild.
Oh my gosh.
And then I also liked the element of the other guy, the blonde guy, the guy from Julie and the Phantoms.
Yes, which
name.
I loved him in Julie and the Phantoms.
Yeah,
he's fun here. I almost wish he was a bit of a bigger role here.
I felt like he wanted
Bobby.
That's funny. His character name's Bobby because I was about to say he like gives like 20% of Bob from Thunderbolts. I could, like, you know what I mean?
No,
like
he
I
does
could
have
see,
some
like,
Bob energy,
right? He's like, I don't want to go through the revolving door. I'm gonna die. Like, I love that. Bob would so do that.
I agree.
Anyways, okay. Some of my numbers are ugly because it's not writing solid, so it's fine.
Also, I fear my numbers are much higher on the scale than yours. 3, 2, 1. 9 out of 10.
Okay, I put 8 out of 10. I really liked this one.
Yeah, this is one of the best
I liked
kills
that
of the
whole
franchise.
scene.
So good. And just like, and then I loved seeing like seeing the nipples go, and then I was wondering, I was like, are we gonna go lower?
Yeah.
Are they gonna do that? And then they do that, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh
You're like,
no.
Thank you, but also ow, and I'm not even a guy, so it's crazy.
So the next one is right after that with Bobby. They were trying to kill him with his peanut allergy, and
I
then
liked
use
the
his
addition.
adrenaline.
That's what I was gonna say about that guy. Was I liked the peanut
Yeah.
allergy thing.
And I like that they were
fun.
foreshadowing it so much going ahead, because they were like, the mom brought like peanut butter cookies, and it was like, you're gonna kill him. And
Everyone
then
was
he
so.
gave.
I guess I understand why they were mad.
But he gave himself the adrenaline shot after the guy who was supposed to give it to him died.
Yeah.
And then the like corkscrew in the vending machine across the hall that he got the thing from, the like peanut butter treat from, like came in
We
through the magnet,
knew
crushed
it
him
was
and
going
just- I
to.
called that.
Yep.
I called that.
Yep. Ugh, that was so great.
Okay, we're gonna. Okay. When vending machines kill. 3, 2, 1. It's a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I just wanted to put it lower than the MRI one because I liked what was surrounding it. I liked the peanut butter thing. I liked him making the joke that, wow, this is really good. And then, like,
no, and then it doesn't work immediately, and they're like, did you grow out of it?
well, I don't know. That's me because I was allergic to pears when I was a baby, and I have yet in my life to eat pears. Because, I mean, when do you eat pears in life? I feel like it's not a popular fruit, and I've just never cared to test that theory. So I'm just going to go through my whole life assuming I'm allergic to pears because it's not like it's peanut butter or something you want to eat all the time. So, and people eat all the time. So, you know.
I also really loved
Anyways.
at the vending machine that joke where it's like, if I'm gonna risk my life here, I don't want basic nuts. I want the Reese's peanut butter.
I want the real
off-brand
shit.
Reese's.
I want the real shit. I want the Reese's,
Oh,
not
and then-
trail mix.
And then it was really brutal seeing it like, because it like jammed him right in the brain, and then it started like spinning.
Yeah,
And I was like, ugh, I'm glad I know he's dead immediately from that.
Yeah.
'Cause, oh my god.
that would suck. Okay.
Our
we
next
have
one
the-
is so this one's when the mom dies at the facility where the mom was, and she just survives the house exploding, and then she dies ultimately. She's like, if the longer I survive, the more you guys are safe. So I'm gonna survive as long as I can. But hardly adds a period to that, and then like one of the lights, like think at a football stadium light, something along that scale, falls down and crushes her and kills her.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Really didn't like that one.
Dang.
It's,
Okay. I thought I was gonna be harsh.
What
You did one out of. I don't know if we've been saying all of these. You said 1 out of 10. I said 4 out of 10.
Yes, good point. We should be saying these.
Oops.
But I think I have been. But oh well. You
My
get how we
bad.
feel about it by the way we
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
But yeah, this one I really hated. You know, they clearly expect us to care about the mom in some capacity. I feel like they
That's
don't
true.
put in nearly enough work to do that. And then it's like the cheapest kill in this movie.
Yeah.
Like-
Unfortunately, which they could have done it worse because you were saying at the hospital like, no, don't do the cheap shot, don't do the cheap shot. When she was there saying, as long as I live, you just imagine like something happening and
Yeah.
like going through her head at that moment.
Oh, I expected her to get like hit by an ambulance or something.
Yeah. So at least there's that, I guess.
I don't know.
But what was this
But
much
this one-
better?
But
Not
this
really.
was another moment where it took the cheap route, the super simple whatever kill,
Yeah.
and then we don't feel anything about it because we don't know her enough. It's a kill for shock value when all of the other kills thus far have had like much more impact, and so
Yeah.
it almost feels like it's played in almost a funny connotation, but I don't know. In this capacity, I don't. In the context, it doesn't feel funny. Either.
Yeah.
So it just feels like it falls flat on everything it could be trying to do.
Yeah, I agree.
And then our final one is the ending scene of the movie whenever The main
like
character
this
Steph and her
bigger.
brother Charlie realize that they are reliving the night that her grandmother had at the Skyview Tower. She pricks her finger on the flower in her brother's tux for prom, and then like the date comes out wearing the same dress that her grandmother wore that night.
Yeah, that was a. Okay. Fine, I'll change mine a little bit.
And then the coin fell out of the book at the hospital, and then, bing bang booms its way into the crevice of a train track intersection. So it prevents it from going all the way over. So the train derails, comes through like a tree line, and they're like running away from it as it's like a bunch of trains like piling over each other. Stops.
And they make it. And
then
then
another cart
logs
hits,
fall
and then the logs
out.
come out and it crushes both of them. And
Okay.
yeah, it's true. It's something.
They're trying to call back to that log one.
Indeed.
So
they love themselves some log. The log truck. We forgot about the log truck fake out.
Oh.
Because
yeah,
it's a log truck that
yeah.
passes by. I think Eric.
Yeah.
So okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
She's a 2 out of 10. It's a 3 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
I think the setup's really cool. I really appreciated the idea that they were trying to recreate that scene. They did that a couple times in some of the other movies, and I liked it there.
Yeah.
So I liked what they were going for. But then they actually die really quickly.
Yep.
And it's like,
Cool. So we did all that for nothing. Cool.
I don't know. I would have almost liked the movie. Like, I almost would have appreciated more if it was like a thing where they didn't, like, they were too busy living in the moment, so they didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? Because because that feels like what's the core of the movie is like trying to be about.
Maybe if they rejected and they're like, no, like, I don't know.
Or if like they were doing something like really happy, where it's like, I'm glad to have you back in my life. I'm glad to have you back in my life. I like Twains. I don't know. And then they used the coin again, and then, like we said, we had that whole thing where it's like, oh, if they just put the coin back, then that's.
I guess this wouldn't
balance
happen.
is due. And then instead it does all that.
Yeah.
So just the last it ends on one of the cheaper, maybe not cheaper because it's a very elaborate scene. I think the whole idea of the train coming off the tracks because of the coin is, I think that works. Just not here's the finale.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work in place of a finale for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's some great kills in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't know, when it fails, it fails.
Yeah,
for me.
I agree.
So, looking at some of the stuff that we haven't talked about yet. I wanted to talk about going through the cast. Just some of the notes that I'd put. I really liked the interesting note of kind of these women repeating, their history with their mothers.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting element. I don't think they explored the mom nearly enough to make that worth it.
Because then it didn't pay off for Stephanie either when the brother's like, well, you left just like her.
Yeah, like it doesn't come to any kind of conclusion where it's like, we do need to move forward as a family.
Yeah.
That would have needed to happen while mom was alive, and unfortunately that happens like off screen after they think they get out of it all.
Yeah.
But they were really, I don't know, I liked them working together as siblings throughout the movie. Yeah. And then I thought it was a really cute moment with her prepping him for prom. Mm-hmm. That's like a great ending. Mm-hmm.
And then they died.
And I don't know, I don't even
and
think
the way they died.
I think it's fine if they did die. Maybe if it was almost insinuated and it cut like right before like right as the train comes out. Mm-hmm. If it cut away, I'd almost maybe appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I think I think the other Final Destinations end on a note like that, where it's like,
I think so. Yeah.
Or
but you forgot that, like, especially the last one with the, oh my God, they're on the plane from the first movie. Mm-hmm. Crazy. So, yeah. Some of them done well, some of them not.
Yeah. So it's not inherently going to be a winner, but in this case, I fear it would have been for me. Yeah. I don't know. It's just it lands on a much weaker note than most of the rest of the movie operates.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also think it's an interesting idea of, you see like the similar patterns between like her and her mother and her grandmother.
Yeah.
And the idea of like seeing the patterns of death. Oh, if this does that and that and that. And that's what all three women have done. And it, separated them from everyone in their lives. And then, ultimately to stop doing that and to immediately go into death. While that's, the premise of the movie, it does kind of land flat on this message they've been pushing kind of the entire movie where it's like, worrying about when you're going to die. You might be alive, but you're not living. I don't know. And the idea that they're still so forcibly aware of their incoming death in the end, it's like, well, so what you're saying is don't live life and do just be afraid. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Because they finally started living life and then they got killed. So, yeah, that sucks. Because the grandmother, I mean, she lived in fear her whole life, but she also lived, was alive her whole life. So, yeah.
I don't know. It's that's an interesting conversation for another day, I suppose. But it's
If
almost
they-
like
if
it's
they
almost
ever
like
wanna have it.
prudes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
like, we survived. We were living in that cave. That wasn't living. That was not dying.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
But that had a good ending. And this one,
Yeah.
Then they died in this one.
Like there's all of like I see all of the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But then they forgot a piece to like make it feel satisfying.
I agree.
Unless you just really wanted them to die. If you if
Maybe
you
they
did like the
did.
main characters, then you might have really loved the ending.
Maybe.
And I don't think I loved her at the beginning, but she definitely grew on me.
Yeah.
So by the end I definitely like wanted her to be alive. I liked Charlie the entire time.
Yeah.
So in any case I didn't want him to die.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah. And Charlie was played by Tio, I believe it's Briones? Briones?
Sure.
And he is from the Chucky show. I was wondering the entire movie why he looked so familiar.
Uh-huh.
He's in Chucky. And I didn't finish that series. I watched a couple episodes when the first season was airing. But it was really good from what I remember.
Yeah.
Stephanie was played by Caitlin Santa Juana, I'm going to guess is how you say that. And she did really great. The start was a little rough. I think her roommate was really funny.
Yeah. If you don't go see your family and figure out why you're having these premonitions, I'll kill you. And that's so real.
And
so.
then she went to bed, love you, girl.
Love you. Like, that's so real. I love that.
Breck Bassinger, who plays the young Iris, she kills that scene. I could have watched
She does.
her surviving in the 60s as the whole
movie. Me too.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It almost makes me sad in a way.
know.
Like, I also really liked Stephanie, for sure. I think that's even more impressive that I still liked her even when we had such a strong main character off the bat. Like, then she's coming in as the main character, and she's still really interesting. But yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. She was very strong. It gives me a really strong impression to watch Stargirl, where she's the main character in it.
Me too.
Because she makes such a strong impression with that opening.
And she's in Bella and the Bulldogs, which I don't.
Somehow I think I'll skip on that one.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I don't think I ever watched that. I think it's a movie.
No, it's a show that was on Nickelodeon.
Oh.
It was all about this girl
Then
who was
never mind, I
a cheerleader
didn't.
who decided to join the football team.
Yeah, I know the concept, so maybe I've seen an episode or two. I don't remember. It would have been a long time ago. I don't know. I feel like that was probably the era where I started moving out of Nickelodeon. So, most shows at least, sometimes they still have bangers, so okay.
Oh, completely agree.
Yeah, so yeah. Anyways.
I'm going to skip down to Eric, played by Richard Harmon. Looks like he's been on a couple of...
He's the tattoo
shows.
guy.
Yes. How did you feel? I remember I was told that he was one of the strongest parts of the movie, in the cast specifically, and I remember you being surprised, because I think both of us weren't impressed by him in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he gave what needed to be given. He was fine. I don't think he was, to me, he was not one of the weaker points. Like, he was just, like, solid. Like, he was what I expected.
I don't know. There were some really great scenes for him where he really shined.
Yeah.
I think really early on, the whole like.
That's
Stay
true.
away
When
from me,
when
Mom,
he's with
was really-
Bobby was nice.
You know what? That every time he's with Bobby, he really works.
Yeah, I agree. That duo is really nice. They should be in something together. Cast
Yeah,
him in
that's it.
something else.
But also, I don't know. But I also really love Bobby, played by Owen
Yeah.
Patrick Joyner. Love him.
Watch
in
Julie and the
Julie
Phantoms.
If you have not watched Julie and the Phantoms,
Ooh, mentally prepared to not get a season 2 though, unfortunately, because that's
unfortunately, but it's I don't
that
know,
ship
it's,
is
to
way
me,
sailed.
It's so strong
yeah.
and and some huge bops.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
I
that,
still have that music somewhere in
oh,
one of my playlists.
It's still on my playlist.
Yeah. So.
It's such a shame because they were really cooking there. And
Oh,
I
wow.
don't
You
know,
have
why
Kenny
would-
Ortega.
You know what? I feel like Netflix has
Netflix,
become
I'm coming
even
for
bigger
you.
since then.
Yeah.
That I feel like it's weird that they haven't gone more towards like tween
Yeah.
content like that. I don't know. It feels like there's still.
I don't know.
It feels like there's this huge divide between like kid content and
Mhm.
adult content, and it feels like they're just expecting them to make that jump from like, oh, here's your stuff on Disney Channel to
Here's stuff on Netflix. Here's 13 Reasons Why. That's why, because that's what happened to us in our generation.
Yeah,
Was
and it
here's
worked so
SpongeBob
well.
and here's 13 Reasons Why, and we all turned out normal, right?
But he definitely got funnier, and he grew a lot more on me the longer
Yeah.
it went. I thought he was really funny in the scene where he's like, "What do you mean I'm not your kid, or I'm not his kid?
Yeah.
Is that why you always wanted to play fetch or catch?
Catch,
Not
yeah.
fetch. That'd be weird."
Oh God, we see why
Right,
she didn't
right.
stay with that guy.
Um,
Anyways.
But I also really liked how he found out that he wasn't like actually a part of like.
The family, why nobody
but
was.
then he still came back. It was like, "This is my bro."
Yeah. But, which is interesting because he still got chased by Death.
Yeah, they definitely teased him.
Yeah.
But then they played
I
with
don't
that too in like the first one, where it's like, he realizes he thinks he knows the order, but then he's like, wait a minute, but we got moved, so this was the seat I was supposed to move in, so I'm supposed to die last, and this is the person who's supposed to die first.
Uh-huh.
Even though we literally see that like 5 times Death tries to come from him, and he's like, nope. So
Yeah.
they've done that before.
Yeah. And he still died in the end because
He tried to mess with
he
Death's
tried
plan.
to escape Death's plan, and it didn't work. He didn't do it in time. So Death came back and messed things up.
in a way.
So, there you go.
Who else? Is there anyone else? Julia had the funniest death. I also wanted to say Aunt Brenda. Played by
Aunt
April
Brenda was
Telek.
a weaker point for me.
It feels
for
like she was
sure.
giving a very toned down performance of something Jennifer Coolidge would have done in her early days.
Okay. Jennifer Coolidge would have been funny.
Oh, for sure. It feels like she had lines that were meant to be almost humorous.
Yeah, and then she just didn't. She wasn't giving Jennifer Coolidge. But she needed to, and she just didn't. Uncle Howard.
Whatever.
Saw it all in the trailer, basically.
Darlene. Oh, with Darlene, the mom, played by Raya Kilistid. I'm guessing is how you say that. I might be adding. way
Wow,
too
no
much
idea. I'm so
flair into
sorry.
that. But
Very fancy last name.
I thought it was really interesting in the trailer. You can see her in the revolving door with her head stuck.
Oh,
And
that doesn't happen
that is
here.
not even.
You don't even see that as like a chance, like something doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
they just pass through that door, and it's like, well, she made that.
See,
So-
maybe that's what they need to do more often instead of just giving you the entire scene where someone dies and then actually still doing that.
Yeah.
But,
But and then I also thought it was weird. Your mom, who explained everything to you, dies in what everyone is saying is a very bizarre accident,
uh-huh.
and then you come back. And it's, I don't know.
Huh?
So the whole idea is
Explain.
so it's a line, right? And so if her mom explained it, she knows what the order is.
Yeah.
So she knows that if she keeps herself alive, as she left to do without infringing on her kid's life,
Yeah.
her kids would live.
Yeah.
But then she comes back anyways after her mom dies, which she knows starts the chain of command, should her mother be proven to be right.
Oh.
But you hear that your mom was murdered in a really bizarre wind vane accident.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like so you admit that she explained everything to you, and you left because you believed it.
Yeah.
But then you came back once the like chain of motions
Once
happened
it
that
actually
puts
started.
your kids in danger.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know. It was an interesting thing that I think they kind of maybe overlooked a little bit. That one's nitpicky, I'll admit. But just as long as the character is also completely underwritten and so on the outskirts of a story that she's heavily involved in.
Yeah.
Just another piece of the broken puzzle.
All right. We should probably hurry on the last two, which we don't have a lot anyways.
JB, Tony Todd's character, it's revealed that he was the kid that died last
Yeah.
at the Skyview Tower.
Yeah.
So that is why he knows so much about all of the other people in the movie. And
He knows about Iris. He's friends with Iris. Or at
they've
least,
been
like,
tracking
contacts.
that bloodline, that
Yeah.
whole line apparently throughout all of the other movies.
Yeah.
And he knows that he is going to be the last person to die.
Yeah.
Um,
And we never see him die, which
Yeah.
is good.
it is nice.
Yeah.
think
I
we'll
don't need
eventually-
to. I don't want to, and I don't need to.
Yeah.
So, because technically, I mean, since Iris died, he'd be next in that line. But, yeah, I'm very glad we didn't see that. He's just not going to be in another movie. So,
So, but lovely, lovely little stop. Literally had me like eyes watering on it because it's just really
it was
beautiful. And
sweet.
it's very melancholy, which I love. I love it when a movie or show can give me the feeling of melancholy really well.
Okay, let's move on. That was a lot.
For a lot.
That was a wild sentence. Anyways.
Good worst.
Stop looking at me like
You are not
that.
giving me melancholy.
Okay. The directors. Ooh, I didn't know that. There's going to be a live action Kim Possible?
Nope, they did that. It's on Disney Channel.
Oh.
It's not good.
Oh.
CJ Rufus.
I was like,
Disney
wait,
Channel
they're going to
CJ
do
Rufus.
it? Like, okay, I'm
It was
down.
bad. It was
Oh, man. That sucks.
So, a Disney Channel original movie. I think it's interesting that we get the guy from Julie in the Phantoms with that background. They also did the Fraggle Rock reboot
Well,
and
wait, what do you
Leprechaun
mean?
Origins.
Julie and the Phantoms is a Netflix show.
I know, but Kenny Ortega used to work on
Disney stuff, yeah. There's, connections.
see the patterns.
I see. Oh, Death is coming.
So and then Leprechaun Origins is like the most. So this is your actual resume piece here. So all around, it feels interesting that the movie's as cinematic as it is, considering the director lineup. Go you guys! You did great. Zach
Where?
Libofsky and Adam Beestein.
John Watts was a writer on this?
Yes.
That's wild.
He was a story writer on it.
Okay.
The other two are credited for screenwriters, meaning they wrote
Yeah.
the actual script, but he
Yeah.
helped them come up with all the story and characters and such.
Oh, so this is
So-
why it's the most interesting concept.
Well, and also look at Guy Busick, who wrote Abigail, Scream 5 and 6.
Liked
Lloyd
all
Evans
those.
Taylor has smaller horror credits.
Okay.
But all around, that's some
Pretty fun.
great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, reviews. You said you were going to look at the reviews.
Yes. Okay, so there's not a current cinema score.
Set.
What-
I'm going to guess.
I'm looking on Friday.
So,
Oh, let's look at the others, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
The first Final Destination got a B minus, then second got a B plus, third got a B plus, fourth, the Final Destination got a C,
I
as it
believe that, the
should,
fourth one.
as it should, and then Final Destination 5 got a B plus.
So, this one,
It's interesting because that is higher than I would give some of those.
I think this one, for me, it's somewhere
Ah.
between a B plus and an A minus.
Yeah, like
It
I
is still
want an A
horror.
minus because this is the best.
But I feel like general audiences are still going to look at it as another horror movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a B plus.
Me too, unfortunately.
I'm going to love it if it's an A minus.
Me too.
I think A minus is where it belongs.
Yeah.
But I think B
Well,
plus.
we shall see.
So Rotten Tomato for
Let me look.
critics. I know I'm not looking.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you were looking.
I'm looking
them.
at the other
Wait.
ones. So
Okay, so. Oh, for the other.
for the
movies?
other ones, the lowest is the original for critics with a 40. The
Wild.
highest is the last one, the work trip one, with a 63.
Okay.
So
Not much higher, but also not that great of a
Yeah.
movie.
And I remember this was really
So.
high. Last I saw it was at 95?
Close. Went down a little bit. It's 92.
92.
Still certified fresh. Still really good. Much higher than almost 30% higher than the highest rated. Because
Yeah,
you said
that was
63.
that.
So
So
what do you
audience
think
score,
audience is?
the lowest one was the Final Destination with 35. The highest
Yep.
was the original with 68. This one, I'm going to guess, is even higher. I would guess it's closer to critic score. I'm going to guess the other one was 92, right?
Mhm. Critics was 92.
I'm going to guess 95.
It's 90. It's
90.
a little lower. But still, like,
Yeah, still
decent amount
that's-
higher.
That's
Yeah.
a great place for it to be. I think it's interesting. I've heard people talk about a horror resurgence, and you know,
I don't know if this movie quite deserves that high. I mean, it's a little high, I would say.
well, because it's just the percentage of people who had a good.
That's
good review of
true.
it.
Yeah, that's like the flawed thing about Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, I think that's fun.
And that number I think is good for
Yeah.
that.
Let's see. Guess the IMDb. I don't currently see a Metacritic score,
Not a lot of,
which
not
is
all
pretty
movies get
typical.
one, but, for this one, I'm gonna guess we did mention a lot of flaws in it, but it's still overall enjoyable. So I'm gonna guess over 5. So I'm gonna say maybe like a 6.8.
Ooh, close. It's 7.2. It did hit the
Ooh.
7. Yeah.
7, I like it.
Also, you know Regina from college?
Yes.
She like 100% looks like Stephanie, right? Do you get that? Shout out to you, girl. Love you. If you ever listen to this, probably not, but if you ever do.
Interesting. I can see.
You know
see
what I
you're
mean?
talking about.
I was
I
like,
have to look at her again.
this is Regina. Like, I love that for her.
My name is Regina.
I mean, I not love it for her when she dies at the end, but
What's she gonna do?
anyways.
Nobody. Po body's nerfect.
Okay, go do your thing with box office.
Okay, so with our box office predictions, so currently the first one made 112 million. The second one made 90 million, so it's the only one that didn't cross the century mark worldwide.
Oh, okay.
The third one made 112, again, a little bit more than the first one. The Final Destination made 187. Final Destination 5 made 155.
Okay.
So what do we think this one is at?
Ugh.
So, and let me look at
And we
what's-
just have probably the Thursday night numbers, which is not going to be a lot.
Yeah, currently it's showing 5.5 million domestic,
Okay.
around 100,000 international. I'm gonna guess we don't have those numbers in yet because Final
Probably.
Destination.
Probably not.
It
does really well over
it
seas,
splits
right?
pretty evenly.
Okay.
For the most part.
Yeah.
The last one was very much heavier overseas.
Okay.
So the ones. So right now it's rocking around just over 5.5 million.
Okay. I wish we knew what the others opened with the first night. But
Oh
that's...
well, I do have the domestic box office opening for them.
Okay, but that would be weekend, right?
Oh yeah, I don't have first
Yeah,
day.
that's okay. It'll help.
So, the opening for the movies in order, starting at Final Destination going down, is 53 million for the first, 46 for the second, 54 for 3, 66 for the Final Destination, and then 42 for the latest.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if it gets to those numbers.
'Cause this one's definitely the best, but
But less
kind of
people are going to see
crowded.
the movies.
Mm-hmm. And are people tired of this franchise?
It has been a long gap. The
Yeah.
last one came out in 2011, so it's over 10 years since the last one came out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, and there's not a lot of huge names to draw in that way.
Mhm.
And again, it's very crowded. So I don't know. I kind of fear for this movie a little bit.
And it's the most expensive one as well.
With 50,000.
It starts with 23 to 26 to 25 to 40,
And this one jumps up to 50 million.
Yeah.
So it's not crazy more expensive.
Mhm. So the last one overall worldwide made 155 million.
Yep.
I feel like this one, this might be optimistic actually. I don't know. I feel like 125 million.
Okay. And that's
I don't
around
know.
the break-even point.
Yeah.
I would say...
It's like just that, so.
I think this
didn't
movie's going to do
flop.
great on digital, which
That
is
is
something we can't
true.
account for.
That is true.
I'm going to go, and then next weekend we have
Mission
Lilo and Stitch
Impossible
and Mission
and Lilo and
Impossible, which
Stitch.
is going to cut into that for sure. I think I'm going to go 100 mil. I'm going to go Century Mark.
Yeah.
And then I know whenever it goes onto digital, it's going to kill.
Yeah.
Literal.
So that is what we're locking in.
Yeah.
So what do you think you would maybe pitch as another one if you had to make another final? What do you want to watch? Another Final Destination?
Yeah, and I feel like we talked about it earlier. I'd want to see some maybe flashbacks, something from like the 1970s
I
or
think
I don't
they did
know,
a
pick a
peace
decade
period
in the
really
1900s.
well.
Yeah.
So I think you could see some
Heck.
great stuff there.
You know what? If someone has a really good pitch for it, do like the 1800s or something. Like
The 1800s would be kind
like
of crazy.
Bridgerton type, whatever they call that era. Sorry, I don't know history. Anyways, well, not that Bridgerton's historically accurate at all, but anyways, like that time period it's supposed to be in. Put them in ball gowns and have them die by a chandelier or something. I don't know. Like be fun with
No,
it.
you can definitely do some fun stuff
Heck,
there for
I mean,
sure.
Nowadays with the small screens, explore a TV show and what that could look like. So
Because they briefly mention in the third one, there's the pictures that show everyone's death, and they bring up the examples of the last picture of Abraham Lincoln has a line that goes through exactly where the bullet went.
oh
And then they have
yeah.
a picture of the World Trade Center, and there's a reflection of there's the shadow of a plane on there.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, it feels really distasteful to say maybe a group of people didn't get on the flights on September 11th.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're going into historical stuff, you could do
Mm.
oh, these are the French lords and ladies who didn't catch the carriage to come to the Reign of Terror.
Oh.
And maybe some historical big event that's based off of real life.
Yeah.
Maybe some historical fiction thrown in there could be something fresh.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think there's some fun stuff you could do there.
I thought about Noah's Ark or something.
Now that's the Final Destination.
I don't want to go on a boat for however long time. Oh my
That's
god, that
great.
could actually be really
Oh
funny.
my god, Final Destination
And you
starts
know
with
what?
Abel and Cain.
That's crazy. Anyways.
Cain, I don't want this rock. Bing, 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 bing.
Something with Goliath too, The Rock. Oh my god, that could.
Wow. I fear we've cooked.
I fear that's the funniest we've been on the podcast. Not the funniest we've ever been in real life, but the funniest we've been in the podcast. We peaked right here.
There we go, guys. You've heard peak of us. So,
Anyways,
that being said, you can watch Final Destination Bloodlines in theaters
right
now.
now.
So let us know what
Yeah.
you guys think of it. What is your favorite Final Destination movie thus far? Maybe your favorite kill, and I don't know, where would you want to see a Final
Oh.
Destination take place?
Yeah, what would that look like, and where would that be? So,
Yeah.
anyways.
Anyways,
we need to move on before we
we
do
will move
too,
on.
too many
Thank you guys so much
things.
for listening to us. Yep, I am your host, Luke.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for listening to Not So Straight Nerds. Bye, guys.